So I have a handout for everybody. I'm going to go through the basics of this. By the way, I'm hoping my voice makes it all the way through. I just canceled a band performance last night because there was no way I was going to make it through 2 songs. So it should be interesting when I go to record my vocal tracks. It'll be very Peter Brady, I think is what we'll be experiencing. If you haven't done self-recording or haven't used Reaper, I'm going to introduce you to the interface. We're going to record some basic tracks. Just the intro of a song. So I'm going to show you kind of how you may layer things down. There are people who have never really done any kind of recording, so they don't understand both the process of how to kind of set it down and then the tools they need. So right at the top, I just go through the basic equipment that you're going to need. Assuming you have a computer. If not, you're going to get a computer. You're going to spend $1,000 to $2,500. So let me give you the basic understanding of how computers are priced. If you were to spend the top dollar today, spend $3,000 for a computer today, a $1,200 computer in 2 years is going to run faster than that computer. And the reason I say that, I work in, what I do is I'm a technology consultant. I've done this for businesses for many years. It's very rare that you need to spend $3,000 for a computer. And I view them as disposable commodities, unless you're doing 3D rendering and 3D graphics. For the basic needs, you really can get away with spending $1,200 or $1,500 and then in 2 years do it again. Because what you get in 24 to 30 months is going to run faster than the top dollar one did 2 years ago. It's the nature of technology. So just keep that in mind. What I tell people not to do is think, I'm going to spend more money and it's going to last me 5 years. Because in 5 years you'll be very frustrated with that system as opposed to just replacing it in 2.5 to 3 years. That's just a general philosophy. So when you record, you need an input device. Now, we're not going to talk about preamps and compressors, which I have at home, that go before this device. We're just going to talk about the basic device. So it's just an input device that connects via USB to your computer. It's going to have software that identifies it to the computer so that your recording software sees this device. This is an older Steinberg UR22. I think Yamaha owns them now. I don't know. It's very basic. 2 inputs on the front, XLR or instrument input with gain controls, a headphone jack, a way to determine whether I'm hearing more of my recorded signal or the actual signal from my instrument or input, and then an output so I can push the sound out to external speakers if needed. Okay. So, input device, I give some relative cost. These are all, you could be all over the map. So, device like this is going to cost you under $200. Focusrite 2i2 is a pretty good device. It's going to run you around $200. And you can be upwards of $1,000, $2,000. You can spend as much money on the studio as you ever want to spend, right? Headphones, something that doesn't bleed a lot of noise and is relatively comfortable is nice. So, which ones am I using here? So my Audio-Technica makes some pretty good entry-level gear in a variety of, right? So that's what I'm using. I had some cheaper ones before. Those were more comfortable. Probably ran me $70 when I got them. Condenser microphone, you could spend $100 or you could spend thousands of dollars, right? So I have a Rode NT1. You can get this with your, oh, I left off one of the things. With a cage and their simple built-in pop filter. I also have a separate pop filter. That I think it ran like $150 as a package, or maybe $250. I can't remember. It was an upgrade from the first like MXL 100s that I bought, right? Mic stand. instrument cables, XLR. So I'm just giving some basic prices, and then your recording software. And so the thing about recording software is you're looking at non-destructive recording software, Pro Tools, GarageBand will work as that, Logic Pro, Cubase, Acid, and Reaper, right? And just a quick explanation of destructive versus non-destructive if it's not understood. Everybody understand what a destructive editor does? The audio editor. Anybody ever use Audacity to record? It's a free recording software, okay? So great, it works great. I've used Audacity for podcasts for years, and it's awesome, it's quick, it's easy, boom, record, and away you go. And you can do some basic cleanup. However, when you apply any kind of effect, whether it's compression, or a little reverb, or a little loudness, and you apply it to a signal, it changes the actual signal. It adjusts the actual waveform on the signal you've recorded. Meaning, you'd have to undo or keep multiple iterations of a audio recording to get back to a baseline or what you originally recorded, because once you apply the effect, it's in the signal, right?
So you save the file first.
Well, yes, but if you'd have to save the file as a backup,
right.
And then, but even then, if you applied 3 or 4 different effects to something, if you suddenly said, shoot, I want to get back to 2 iterations ago, or I just want to remove the reverb, it's been applied in layers, it can't come off. Okay? That's destructive editing. You do not want to use destructive editing. So that's what Reaper, Pro Tools, these other software, and the same is true for video when you work on video files. And I'll give you an example when we do this. I'll show you an example of how it's not destructive and what that really means to you. Okay, so a little bit about Reaper. I give the website to go to it. It's got a fully working, free 30-day download. Okay, they use what they call honorware, right? So what that means is they never turn off any of the features. Okay, you could use it for 5 years and never have paid for it. You'll just be nagged for 20 seconds or something when it first starts, okay? However, it's $60 for the full version, and it goes through multiple iterations. I think you were using it, right? And you've been using it almost 5 years. It hasn't gone through the second iteration version, so for 5 years he's paid $60 for a piece of software. Now if you're a studio and you're making more than $20,000 a year, or a professional and you're making more than $20,000 a year just with your music, they ask that you pay $225. They don't check that, they just ask. That's what they do. And my feeling is this: when I bought a new computer, I could have applied my new license or my old license to it. I just bought a new license, more because I wanted to support them, because I really believed in what they're doing. They have a great online community. They put out software revisions quickly. It's not buggy software. I've found it to be far less buggy, for instance, in memory utilization, working as a technologist. So remember, I work in technology. Its memory utilization is significantly better than Pro Tools. It just doesn't have as many times where you have to kickstart the application again. Okay? You can use all the same VSTs, plugins, virtual instruments that you can find. You know, it's amazing. It's really an amazing piece of software. So that's the pricing: $60 for a discounted license for personals or individuals, $225 for a business with revenues exceeding $20,000 a year. Okay. So we're going to go through this recording process, and I lay it kind of out for you there. I just basically say the first thing is we need some kind of beat or a click track, right? So a beat or a click track is just what we're going to record to, right? Just the whatever it is, beats per minute, whatever that's going to be, okay? They have a metronome, a click. I hate recording to a click because very few songs effectively sound like a click. And what I mean by that is you're rarely playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. A song oftentimes has a doonch, 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 doonch. And so it can be a little bit difficult for me using a click and staying in perfect time. So a lot of times I'll use a simple drum track where I throw in some eighth notes or whatever just to give myself a little more variation. But either way, the first track you have is going to be your metronome. Okay? The next track that you're going to record is going to be your map. It's just a scratch track. It doesn't matter. It only matters that you're relatively in time. It doesn't matter that your pitch is right. Doesn't matter that you mess up on the guitar somewhere. Just keep your time going to get through the song. And the reason you do that, and I typically record it as guitar and vocals, okay? And although there's another way to do it, but the reason I do that is this. If you try and put down a track and you're going to record your actual guitar, but you're not plugging your guitar directly into the device, you want to pick up the sound on the microphone, you'll be singing in your head because you won't be playing to anything, just the beat. And that is fundamentally challenging because if you've ever tried to do that, oh, go, don't worry, go, we're all good. It's hard to remember where you are in your own song if you're just playing the guitar and you're not playing to any, like you're counting on the fact that in your mind you're not singing out loud and you're going to remember where you are in the song. And I've done it enough times that you just make a mistake. So what I do is I take the song and I just record my guitar and vocals as a scratch track in relative time. Whether I mess up the lyrics is not relevant. It's just that I capture the basic structure of the song. It is my map, right? Once we have that map, I can now go back and go, okay, let's just record an instrument, my guitar. Let's now record vocals. Let's record some percussion. Let's add a second guitar. Let's add a bass. I can just start layering on whatever pieces I need at that point, okay? So we're going to go through that process, and all we're going to do is record a verse and a chorus for one of my songs. We're just going to go through the process of it, okay? It's going to be very likely underwhelming, except it should show you the process and give you some ideas of how you might work with the software. And by the way, working with Reaper would be the same as like working with Logic or you're still going to do multi-track record. It's the same. There might be some adjustments in what they call a certain thing, and you know, and we're not going to discuss effects buses and all those things. I mean, we might discuss them in, you know, at the very end, cover some of those things. We're just going to cover the basics of getting tracks down. That's all we're going to really cover. So what I've done is I have an interface of Reaper. I have a certain design setup of Reaper that is customized a little bit, but for the most part, you know, you've got your timeline and where your tracks fall. You have a mixer down here. And so what I'm going to do is add a track just by double clicking. So that's where we're going to have a track that we're going to put a beat to. Okay? And what I'm going to do is we're going to call this alright, so the first thing I want to do here is just going to highlight a little area. Actually, the first thing we're going to do, sorry, let me go here and alright, so this is a really basic, free, just drum effect. That's all it really is. Okay, so to give you an idea, I'm going to turn this on. Let's see if we get audio out here. And see if we can't.
Is that part of a package that you have to download from Reaper?
Yeah, yeah. And it can be used with any other software too. So look, there's my bass drum, right? Okay, so that's a little bit difficult to play drums using that, but it's just an idea to give you, right? So, but that's what the drum sounds are. Now, I think I'm gonna have to track something down when I do this. I may have to open up another. But okay, so the first thing I want to do is insert MIDI item right here. Now what I've done is I've created a little input area, and I've got to remember where this is. Okay, so there's a way to get the drum mappings here, but this is just a little editor. We're not going to talk... By the way, I want you to understand something. You're not going to learn how to use all these pieces. Don't worry about it. You want to know they're available because you're going to have to jump into it, but I'm just showing you a process, okay? So, there's a base. Okay, so what I want to do is I just want to put, really simply, oops, and I'm doing this very manual, okay? But there's a reason for that. All I really want is I want an 8-count lead-in for whatever I'm going to record. I'm using 8 counts because we're doing something 4/4, okay? So, good enough. So I'm going to get rid of part of that. The reason I'm doing that is I want to know where I'm going to start my song. That's just to give me time so I can be prepared when I'm recording at home. So it's just a little, that's my little 8-count lead-in. Now, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it, but now I can make some adjustments to it. So, we're going to go really basic, okay? And once again, I can find the drum mappings for this. There's a file. I don't want to go searching for it while we're doing it. But let me see here. Let me see if I see it right away. I don't know if this is the actual track. No. Okay, hold on. I already had this on some other, when I loaded this new theme, I was like, oh, I gotta go track down where I have this stuff, so I don't want to spend time searching for it, but I'll look real quick, let's see. That's probably not it. Yeah, that's not it. Well, and actually it doesn't have all these drums, that's part of another, but can you see that it's added, let me adjust this since it's not showing the entire screen. I don't know if you see right here, what it's done is it showed me a kick, a side stick, a snare, a tom. That's actually for another drum package, which we'll look at later. But it lines up, the kick lines up actually appropriate, so I'll bet you the snare does somewhere too. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, it's easier, it makes it easier for me to place these. So, where were we on our new track here? Okay, so I have 8 counts that lead in, and now I want something that gives me a little more feel that I can record to. So, I'm not going to worry about those hi-hat. All I'm really going to do is this. I'm going to make one adjustment. Here's the adjustment I'm making. I just want my one note to have a little stronger sound to it than my other ones. I could raise the volume of any of these, but all I'm really doing is throwing a snare on top of it. And so I'm going to show you kind of what happens. So now you can see on this second section, I now have a snare at the 1. If I extend this out, it's just going to copy the same thing over and over again. Okay? So the sound that I'm getting, we're going to get an 8 count lead in, and then it's going to start. By the way, for whatever reason, and I don't want to have to adjust the screen, I'm losing the left side of the screen, so I'm going to kind of resize my screen so that you guys aren't losing out on something. Okay, so now, if I go back to the start here, and we're just to listen, right? click track. Why? Because I don't like beep, 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 beep. It just doesn't do it for me. And if I wanted to do more, I could actually put a more of a realistic drum beat in there too, which I do sometimes. For today, we're not going to do that. I'm just showing you kind of an example. I've extended this out for, I'm going to expand out here. So I don't know how long I'm going to be recording for, but let's just say it's going to be a minute and I don't think we're going to go 2 minutes. That's okay. I've already saved my project, so I'm just going to resave it. By the way, as I tell people that work with documents, and databases, and other files, only work as long without saving as you enjoy losing work, right? Okay, so the number of times I tell people, I've been working on this document for 2 hours, and then, you know, my computer crashed and I lost everything. You mean you hadn't saved in 2 hours? Saving is Control S. Every time you walk away, every time you take a breath, every time you stop to, like, Control S, just save the stinking project. Yes?
It doesn't have autosave?
What's that? You can do an auto, there is an autosave. But I'm just saying, just as a general, as a course, the first thing I do is I start a project, I save it, and then I start working with it. And then I save it, and I save it, and then I think about something, and I save it just because I thought of something. Like, it's so natural for what I do because I don't like to be frustrated and lose work. So if you don't like being frustrated and lose work, save your work, right? What surprises me more is the people, and once again, working in technology, that for 20 years I still get the same call from the same people. I lost all this work. Really? What am I going to tell you? Save your work, right? So now we have a track, but it's not really in time. So let's look at the song we're going to do. So I have a song called The Tide. And we'll just play the song so we hear it. I'm not going to play the whole song. We want to be in tune relatively, right? Okay, so the song goes like this. That's about the beat. Okay, so would you put that at about 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, about like that, right? So the cool thing is we can go up here to this where it shows our beats per minute, and I can kind of tap to that beat, okay? 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so close enough. So right there it's at 107. Let's just see. I'm going to make it 105. And it will adjust my time signature automatically, so it's going to adjust this. So now let's listen. A little slower than what I was playing, right? Okay, so that's a little bit slower than what I was playing. So let's make it, maybe the 107 was right. We'll go to 108, I don't know, because I like even numbers. Try it again. Feels better for me. Okay, great. So now I have it. Now, next part of our setup, and when we record our scratch track, we're not going to be playing it out loud. Now there's two ways I could record it. Because I want to record my vocals at the same time just to get a map, to know where I am. I could just plug in my guitar, go straight to the device, even though that's not really the sound I want. I really want the acoustic sound with the microphone, but I could do that. And then I don't have to worry about whether I'm doing vocals at the same time, because I could sing out loud and it's not going to pick up my vocals because I'm recording directly to device. But we're going to look at it the other way that I do it, okay? Does everybody understand what I'm saying there? Like, I could record directly into this, plug my guitar directly into this, and it's not going to pick up any external sound because it's going directly from the guitar to that device. But I'm instead going to record live into a microphone and create my scratch track with that. So to do that, I have to turn off the sound to you guys, and you guys have to be reasonably quiet. Reasonably, I don't think we're fine. We're just recording a, you know, the costs give it. It was really funny. I was recording something with my daughter, and we live really far away from a railroad track, okay? And at the end of the recording, the train whistle blew, and I could hear it when we recorded it. And then sure enough, the microphone picks up everything. So I hear the train whistle at the very ending, but I liked it. I was like, you know, it kind of works. It was so far away that it kind of had this romantic sound, you know? So I just kept it in there, you know? You just kind of hear this train. It's like, where did you get that really authentic train sound? Well, from a train. You know, that's how we got that authentic sound. Hold on a second. Where did I put the... Oh, here. All right, so... microphone cable. It's going to be very interesting for me to do this, given that I sang this before I came here, and I was like, does everybody remember when I mentioned Peter Brady, the Brady Bunch episode where Peter Brady's going through puberty and he's trying to record? That's what it was like at home. I was like, it's all right now.
When it's time to change.
What's that?
I was just singing the song.
Time to change, rearrange, whatever that was.
Yeah, blood popped into my head.
I'm ashamed at you that you know it, and I'm more ashamed of me that I know it too. So that's that's how I feel about that.
I was too old for the Brady Bunch.
When I was 6, I was too old for the Brady Bunch. So now, this also, by the way, this has phantom power on it, which you need to have. I'm going to turn down this this monitor is going to be off. Although I could turn it on just for a second so you can see. All right, am I getting any audio through there? A little bit? Okay. So we could actually get away with doing it and it wouldn't kill anything because once again it's just a scratch track, but it could create some feedback and other stuff. So I'm not going to worry. So I'm going to turn it off.
Are you using the headphones so that you can hear the click track?
So now at this point, yes.
By the
When I'm now playing this in here, I'm hearing the drums, right? And I'm also hearing my input into this microphone. Okay, so that's what we're hearing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new track. I'm going to call this Scratch Song. And then I'm going to go down here and I'm just going to arm this track. So now we see it's picking up audio. Okay? So hello, test, 1, 2, 3. There you go, picking up audio. I'm going to be really quiet, and on the count of 3, you guys are all going to yell or clap or make a noise, and you'll see it picks up that audio too. So, there you go. So, at home, my soundproofing, because as much as people think about wanting to do like, sometimes people go, oh, don't I want to record in a place that has really good acoustics? No, you kind of want to deaden your acoustics a bit in most cases, right? Because you're going to be applying reverb after the fact. You're going to be applying After Effects, and anything you capture in the original sound, it's in that recording. That's what you've got, right? You can do some cleanup, but it's really a pain in the ass to try and take things out. You're really deadening things to take things out, okay? So that's a pain in the ass. So at home, what I use is moving blankets, and I have a PVC vocal and guitar recording it's collapsible. I can bring it up and down when I need to because I use it in my office and I have other things I have to use in there. So my daughter is moving out of the house now, and now I have 2 extra rooms, and I go, I think I'm going to convert one room into just for recording and just do a little more soundproofing with it. But I'll tell you what, you can do a lot worse than moving blankets and having a little closed in place. Okay? And there's entire videos on YouTube where they'll discuss soundproofing and things you might want to try and trying things out, and you can really notice a difference. Okay? Let me get my guitar on first. So I don't really care about mic placement at this point. I'm going to turn the signal up a little higher than I might normally. I'm not going to record on it. Remember, I'm just trying to capture everything. I'm trying to capture a map of my song. I apologize for what my vocals may or may not do in the next couple seconds. Alright. Who's coughing out there? Really? It's amazing. Another thing you'll find if you record yourself, it's really interesting. You have the chance to solo given tracks, like solo a guitar track. So when you solo your vocal track, you will find out what a disgusting noisy person you are. Your mouth clicks, everything makes noise. So you hear, it's just like awful. It's like when I record my podcast, I go, gosh, but you don't hear it when you talk to somebody in person, but the microphone picks up everything, okay? Which can be really good, because sometimes, when you're recording and you want that sound, you want like a breath taking in. You'll hear that on recordings where you hear, sometimes that's a really cool effect to have in the song, so it's cool, but understand, it does pick up everything. All right. She's standing on the front porch, looking west. Salty mist in her eyes, and times like these weather puts us both to the test. 'Cause in the marches on that California coast, windswept auburn hair, hearing waves, gulls and children, wishing I could take her there. She is like the sea, her love is like a rolling tide. My heart is like the sand, it's just being swept aside. Chasing their pursuit as that wave returns to the sea, praying that a full moon bring the tide back to me. Okay, there we go. So that's my scratch track. Now I obviously don't need all of this, right? So that's close enough. Now we can expand that out a little bit. And I'm going to turn this down briefly, turn this up. Standing on the front porch, looking west. Salty mist in her eyes, and times like these weather puts us both to the test. 'Cause in the mountains on that California coast. We're in close enough time. I'm good enough. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going back over this. But for the most part, if I'm ending on the measures where I need to end, that's good enough for me, because I'm not going to keep this guitar and I'm not going to keep this vocals. I don't really care about it, okay? I just wanted the map of my song. So the next thing I'm going to do is just play along with myself. I was going to say play with myself, but I don't do that on stage. Okay, so I'm not paid enough. That's a whole different workshop and seminar. It'll be at AdultCon later this month, I think. I don't even know what you guys are thinking, you disgusting pigs. You're obviously all musicians. Oh, Jilly, that can be edited out of the video. I don't, right? All right. So let me turn this down again. And turn this up. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time where my levels are, how I want to record. One of the things you're going to find, I know that heat goes on, so it's going to pick up that audio, for sure, right? I'm, once again, not overly concerned. I don't want us to freeze. One thing you'll find, and you know, you're going to read videos, they're going to tell you, with your instrument mic, have 2 mics, do this, do that, be here, be, 8 inches away, be whatever. I'm going to tell you this. That's all great stuff to know or see. Ultimately, take your guitar and your microphone and record yourself. Different angles make different sounds. They say position about at your 12th fret. I think that's a good standard place to start. Being right over the sound hole tends to be a little bit overwhelming on the microphone, but try different things. Change that an angle, it changes things. And you might find that for this particular song, I'm capturing more, too many lows. You might want to make sure the microphone is lower on the, down lower so it's picking more of the highs or whatever. Experiment with placing your microphone till you hear something you like, right? The biggest thing I would tell people is play a lot early, like just record different things. Instead of like micromanaging one thing and trying to get a sound, if you didn't like the sound you got, record the guitar all over again from another angle, with a different microphone. Just try different things, right? That's probably, when you read about a lot of going back, to some of these classic recordings and songs we've heard over the ages, you find things where they're like, oh yeah, we were recording in a hallway with a mirror to our left, and like we just like that sound, so that's how we recorded there. You find out that all the rules are great to learn, then experiment. And I do the same thing when I talk about songwriting. I always tell people, write to a structure. Write a 4-verse stanza and a 4-verse chorus and a 2-verse bridge, and build your song that way. Then experiment. Don't start experimental, but learn the basics, and then you can play with it. But I'm just saying, trying to get the sound you want is very much an experimental, playing around thing. So we're going to get all this extra sound. I'm not going to worry about it. But now what I'm going to do is disarm this track. And now I'm going to call this one. By the way, I'll show you how an actual project is, how I structure them with folders and other things. We're not talking about that because you can organize things in folders and why you would do that. We're just getting tracks down. So I'm calling that GTR 01, Guitar 1. All right, we're going to arm that. And now I'm going to hit record. We're going to pick up a lot of noise, just so you know. Okay. First take out, we did perfect at guitar. We don't have to record more than 2. That's how we do it. That's how I do it personally. I always record perfectly the first time that way. So now what I can do is, now that all that obnoxious noise has stopped, now I can mute out these. Now I've got some basic what are called effects chains, which I'm just going to apply and then as a baseline. I'm not going to worry about whether it's right or anything. I just want to get it there. Let's go back to the start. And I'm just going to start after towards the end of that lead-in. Now we're going to do the same thing we did just so we can listen to it. And it's going to be noisy, I suspect. But that's okay. You hear, okay, by the way, did you hear all that at the start? That was the, whatever, it's in there, okay?
It sounds like a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah. Okay, so now all we have is guitar. So we're not using these original tracks at all. If I wanted to do percussion, I sometimes use, you know, a cajon at home. I don't have drums at home. I'll use cajon, or I'll use a drum, you know, loop or something. But this is just, you know, we've got a basic recording. So now we're ready to do our vocals. So, okay. Far less important that I begin at the start. I don't need a lead-in. I don't really even need the drums, although usually I'll include them. Oops, that was not the drums. Keep that muted. That's the drums. We can make these smaller, by the way, to get them out of the way. Alright, so now we're going to raise this once again. I will do my best with my vocals today, and you'll be forgiving. Alright. Oh yeah, we'll turn that off. I've got my backing band right over here. So that's cool. That also will be on the recording. Okay. Alright, let's see if we can get through these vocals. And not forget my lyrics, which that happens at times too. Real quickly, so on my device here I can control how much of my mix I'm hearing versus how much of my vocals, right? It's a really simple interface, just, you know, one way or the other. It's going to bring more of the mix or less of the mix, okay? So I want more and less, I want more of my vocals, less of the mix. Because otherwise it's just overwhelming. Okay. You can't really hear what I'm hearing, but... She's standing on the front porch. Yeah, she's looking west. Salty mist in her eyes. In times like these, well, it puts us both to the test. 'Cause in the marches on that California coast, windswept auburn air, hearing waves, gulls and children, and wishing I could take her there. She is like the sea, her love is like a rolling tide. Her Heart is like the sandy ridge just being swept aside. And chasing rain pursued as that wave returns to the sea. I'm praying that a full moon bring the tide back to me. It's actually good that we made a mistake. Because we're going to go back and punch in and fix that spot. Okay? Which is a cool thing to do. But first, let's hear what we got. Now I'm going to take, once again, for listening back, mute the drums out of it. I'm also going to apply the exact same effects chain just as a starting off point. You could have different ones for vocals, whatever. Just, I would change that. If we wanted to wide male vocal, whatever. Very similar. Just drop out some low end. I'm not covering what we're doing with EQ. That's a whole... There's a great... if you're going to use Reaper, there's a great YouTube channel called Reaper Mania with a guy named Kenny Joya that does... He's got 100+ videos where he discusses all these different effects that come with Reaper and then others you can add on and how to apply them. But you can't really hear what I'm doing. She's standing on the front porch. Yeah, she's looking west. Salty mist in her eyes. In times like these, well, it puts us both to the test. 'Cause in her mind, she's on that California coast. Okay, good enough. I'm not going to be able to do anything else vocally. Just letting you know. I just don't have the, my voice is thrashed as it is. But let's go to where I forgot the lyrics, okay? And now, first of all, I coughed at the start there, right? And I was talking. You can't really hear what I'm hearing, but... She's standing on... Okay. Done. Fixed. Fix that. Okay, it's gone. I also cough right here, I think, right? Okay, we'll take that out. Heart is like this sandy ridge. Okay, so there's where I messed up. There's where I messed up. I'm sorry. Alright, so a couple things I'm going to do. First of all, right now it's snapping to grid, which means it snaps to every kind of line, and that's annoying to me. I just want a little more flexibility. So, first thing, let's just take that out. And so what we can do is I've marked this little timeline area, and you'll do a lot of this later, but I'm going to split at the time selection. Bam, that's gone. Now remember I said that this is a non-destructive editor. We have a WAV file sitting here behind this, okay? I've just cut out an area. I could save the file, I could close it, okay? We're not impacting that WAV file at all. We're not touching it. That's what non-destructive means. So if I were to grab the edge of either one of these and drag across, there's my cough. Okay? So it still exists. Any effects we're applying are on top of this. So when I apply reverb, it's applied on top. The actual original file is never touched. If you were to look at a Pro Tools session or a Reaper session and find the WAV files underneath it, which are stored in a folder, you would find that they are fully intact with every mistake. They're all there. And that can be helpful. If something really got corrupt, you could get those files and you could do something with them. It's ugly and it's a mess, but you can. Okay? So I mess up the lyrics in this little section. Heart is like the sandy ridge just being swept aside. Okay, so it's really my heart is like the sand ridge just being swept aside. Okay, so what I can do is I can highlight about that section, and I can go up here to options and record mode normal. I'm going to say record mode time selection auto punch. Right? So now I'll go back here to give myself a little bit of space. I can't be playing out there, and I'm going to be at the wrong levels because which I normally wouldn't do. So we're doing a lot of playing around here that I wouldn't be doing. But we'll see if we get relatively close. So, my heart is like the sand. My heart is like the sand. It risks just being swept aside. Is that the lyrics? My heart is like the sand. It risks just being swept aside. Okay. My heart is like the sand, it risks just being swept aside. Okay, so now we see there are two tracks here. We have our mistaken track and then we have the new track, and it's highlighted. I could go back to this one, but I just keep that highlighted. So let's see if this works. Your love is like a rolling tide. My heart is like the sand, it risks just being swept aside. Chasing and pursued as that wave returns to the sea. Praying that a full moon bring the tide back to me. Okay, so now we've laid down. So let's just recap. So we lay down. We put some drums so we could record to a beat. We then put a scratch track where it's just the map of the song. I don't care if I'm in tune or pitchy, as long as my time is correct. Then. And I've messed those up too. The nice part is you just record section by section if you need to and get it all done. As long as you have your map, I don't care if you're playing a guitar on a different day. And what's nice about that is you can get your arrangement down. If you want to move things around, you can move things around. Okay. Then you can get into, re-recording parts or whatever. So then we lay down the guitar track, right? Now we might lay down 4 or 5 guitar tracks and pick between them, or have them layered or doubled up. That's something that you do quite often. You might play the exact same guitar a second time, pan left and right, apply a slightly different EQ to one versus the other, gives you a more full sound. There's a lot of things you can do. You do it with vocals too. You do the exact same thing. See the exact same vocals. You got to make sure you're singing the exact same vocals, but then you can take it, pan them left and right, do some other things with them, right? And that's all beyond the scope of this, but there's plenty of videos online to learn about it if you're working on home recording. You would do well just to get halfway decent, not over-reverbed songs recorded with multi-tracks so that you can go back and redo parts and then add backing vocals. And we could add... want to come up here?
Me?
Yeah, I want your voice.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just making this up as I go, so...
All right. What do you want me to do?
I don't know, we're going to say... We're going to come up with a line for you to do just on one little part, right?
Okay.
So let's see. I don't want this too loud for you, so... She is like the sea, her love is like a rolling tide. Okay. So let's see what you could sing over that. Just the same words.
Alright.
She is like the sea, her love is like a rolling tide. She is like the sea, her love is like a rolling tide. Something right about there? Can you be about there?
Yeah, if I can hear it.
Yeah.
Do it again.
Oops. See her. She is like the sea, her love is like a rolling tide. What's that?
It's a little bit high. Yeah. You mean an octave higher?
Don't be an octave. Just be, she is like the sea, she is like the sea, her love is like a rolling tide. She is like the sea, her love is like a rolling tide. Just be right there. She is like the sea, her love is like a rolling tide. Just stay even with that. Her love is like a rolling tide. I'm going to give you a little time, but let's hear it a few times.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
we have to a little bit of it.
She is like the sea, her love is like a rolling tide. She is like this. She She is like the sea. That's about the note I want you at. I just can't really hit it.
She is like the sea. Is that a tone? She is. Yeah. Okay, but
Give it a try. Listen to it.
Okay, sure.
Look, if we mess it up
Yeah,
here, yeah.
right.
I'm not putting this out to radio tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Day after
You're
tomorrow,
not?
yes. Just for your
Yeah,
whole play
yeah,
around
we'll
this,
see.
right? So I'm gonna turn that down. Even if you matched it, even if you match it, even if you're just the same, singing the same line.
Yeah, that might be easier.
You know, just if you want to do that, that's fine too. Put the headphones on and tell me how it sounds.
She is like the sea, her heart is like a... So I don't hear myself much, but...
You don't? Okay, we can adjust that.
She is like... She is like the sea, her love is like a... What were you saying?
Rolling tide. Rolling tide. Yeah.
Can it be like da 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 da?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna mess that up.
That's fine. Just do that.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna punch her vocals in on another track. Okay. I'm gonna start from back there. Let's just give it a try.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, just something.
Good enough. Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So now let's turn that down, turn this up. She is like the sea, her love is like a rolling tide. So now if we really wanted to see, let's hear what we sound like together, right?
Okay.
I can just isolate, so I just did solo on the 2 vocal tracks. She is like the sea, her love is like a rolling tide. There you go. We've just added a little more depth to the recording. And she was just matching tone, right? So we could play around with doing, you know, whatever, different, we could do a variety of different things, right? So I'm just giving you an idea of how it wasn't that long to put together something like that, right? What I've been challenged with is spending an hour every morning and just recording, because I do consulting work. I don't make my money making music full time, right? So thank you very much. You are free to go. No, thank you. But the whole idea is you can now go back to this song a month later. I go, I just had this idea for something else to add to it. Or you could try a different thing, add percussion to it, add a shaker, you know what I mean? And then yank it out and, you know, try something different. So that's the nice part about being able to use Reaper effectively to record yourself at your house and do multi-tracks, right? And the nice part is, I grab her email or somebody else's email because I like something they do. I could then output a basic recording of the song with the 8-count lead-in and say, hey, take this into your software. She could be in, Sweden? Whatever. Somewhere over there. Where Texas.
With the vocals.
Texas.
Yeah,
Texas. She could be out in Texas where she was born and raised. And she could take it into her own recording software or into a studio, record some backing vocals, send me back the track, and if she sends it back with the entire track back to my 8-count lead-in and includes my lead-in, it makes it really easy for me to just, boom, pull it right in. So I had a song called How It Goes, and I did that years ago, and I helped Andrea Stolp, who, she's a songwriter out here, and so I helped her with her blog when she was teaching at the Berklee School of Music online. So I helped her with her blog and her website. And she goes, how can I, well, you know, I'd like to pay you or whatever. I go, no, don't pay me. you have some things I want, like your voice. I said, here's a song I have. Now, she loved it. It's a country song duet, so I sent it to her. She recorded all her tracks at her house because her husband, Teddy, is an engineer. They sent me back just all these different tracks, and I got to play around with them in my software. Right? It's really cool. And then another guy named Jeff Finland, years ago, I had some songs, and he liked them. And he was in Denver. I think he's moved now, but he was in Denver. And I sent him this, and he played drums and some guitar for me. And I just sent him the files online. We did it via Google Drive. I don't use Dropbox. I use Google Drive. I have it, by the way, on my website, which is on there. I have a whole article, a blog entry on how to collaborate with musicians using Google Drive and how I structure folders and things like that. In any case, so the cool thing is, you hear those like when you heard me talking at the beginning of the recording, hey, you guys can't hear what I'm hearing, whatever I was saying. When Jeff Finland recorded drums to this one song, it's kind of this rock number that my band still plays, and at the start you hear him talking to his engineer because he did it in his studio, and he goes, a little bit louder please. He was talking for his headphone mix, but it was right before the song started, so it's a little bit louder please. And so I just kept that. Like that was in the recording. I go, I'm not taking that out. I like hearing in the background, a little louder please. You know, it goes off, right? It was cool. Anyway, so that's, you know, that's one of the things that you do. So now we can isolate any of these, and that's how you really test your vocals, right? When you're doing backing vocals, you isolate, you do a solo on all the vocal tracks with nothing else. And that's where you hear, oh, do they sound right? You know, I heard on part of ours, there's a little part where it was discordant, then it was kind of fine, you know, so we might have to play around with that, right? But if we were, you know, working in the studio. But that's fine, that's how you do that. Any questions on what I've covered?
I have one question. Like,
yeah.
When you do vocals, for instance, like when you move, you might want to do it again. And how do you, because it's going to sound different depending on where you stand, right?
Yeah. I have a general idea distance-wise, although I spend far... So I have a problem in the studio, and this is a problem I've had to overcome. When I play live, so as comfortable as you see me on stage is how comfortable I am with my band on stage. I don't have stage fright. I haven't since I was 12 years old, okay? And probably even prior. And so I love the energy of being on stage. So when I'm performing with my band, it's all the energy is with my band, with the performance. When I get into the studio, my problem is I start going, okay, I'm 8 inches away, and my pitch is right, my timing's right, and I'm no longer performing the song. My feeling is this. Have a general place that you generally record it. You could even jot some notes. You could put them in Reaper. There's a place to, you know, you put notes for a track or whatever. More importantly, capture the emotional delivery of the song, because you'll adjust it. You'll sit there and go, oh, that doesn't sound right, I was closer, I was there. You're not going to have that much variation, in my opinion. The more important thing is, are you emotionally capturing the song, right? But, you know, generally I'm usually in the same place, right? I'm usually about here, but I fluctuate a little bit. And that's one thing, we're recording with Doug Green up in Pasadena. And my band is. And, you know, he tells me, he goes, okay, he wants me really close to the mic, so he's like, I want you here. I go, okay. So the first time I recorded, I'm like, here, okay, make sure you don't move. I told him, I go, man, I'm just spending all my... He goes, okay, yes, I said be there, but if you're like moving around, if the energy of the song is moving you, move to the song. He goes, I'll deal with it post. If I have to change levels, put an envelope in there. Everybody know what an envelope is? Like a volume envelope. Okay, an envelope is where I can sit there and go, I'll show you. I can sit there and add an envelope. A volume envelope, okay? Now, I can go to a specific section of my song. This envelope is now tied to this vocal track, okay? And I can okay, oh, that was ugly. Oh, it's that close? That's not good. Oh, no, there it is. Okay, so that's really ugly. That's not going to work at any level. But let's hear what it does. Just soloing my vocals. Right here. She's standing on the front porch, Yeah, she's looking west. Okay, so I can pick a specific area and bring the volume up and down. I can also do that with, pan left and right, with effects, yeah. Were you going to say something?
Oh, I was gonna say just use compressor.
Well, I can use a compressor, but so for instance, you can use a compressor, although some people don't like the idea of over compressing. So there's a zillion ways to skin a cat, but if you're out there skinning cats, you are a sick person. So don't skin cats. But there are a million ways to do other things too. So you can do like, I'll do a volume envelope. Usually, if there's places where it's peaking on the signal. And I want to do a quick adjustment in certain areas to make sure I want the volume where it is, and there's certain spots where I'm just taking volume down in one area. Because I can zoom in on this one note, and I could say, oh, this was peaking out a little bit, and I can drop it and just do that, right? That would be one thing I might do. But that way, if you've recorded at a different volume, like when I came back and I punched in, I was I was closer to the mic. Now I could take that whole little item and I can lower its volume, or I could use an envelope. There's a number of ways that I can do it, or I could just re-record it, which I might do. But usually, a lot of that you can fix in post if you're capturing a good delivery. Okay?
Because most singers, they get emotion and they move left and right. And
listen, I've learned, and this was something I had to learn. I recorded with a guy named Brian Canestro in Simi Valley. He's a pretty good engineer, and we had done the song, we had recorded everything, and my band had recorded, we had tracked together, and then we had done a few things. A bass player had fixed some parts, my guitar player had fixed some parts. And then I went back the next day just to do vocals on all the tracks. And we were doing the song South of Mexico, and it's a love song, you know, and sad song, right? So we did like 3 vocal takes on it, and he goes, okay, he goes, yeah, what we got is pretty good, you know, I think I can work with it. He goes, but, you know, I want to try something. He goes, can you tell me the saddest moment of your life? Now I have 2 of the saddest moments of my life, I can tell him. I go, one was the day that my first wife and I got divorced, like in court, the day it was final. It was sad, it was a hard day, okay? And the other day that was really sad is when I moved out of California, and my 14-year-old son and I we played hockey, and so we were playing one-on-one hockey, roller hockey, out of this place that it was like this amazing parking lot that was custom made for us. Just every night we were there playing hockey. And we were moving the next day, and we went out and played, and we were sitting back against the wall, and he goes, Dad, we'll never do this again. And I go, yeah, we will. And we never did, and remembering it literally makes me sick to my stomach, right? And so I told him that, and he goes, all right, I want you to think about that as you're singing this song. I want you to constantly go back to that memory and tap into that emotion. And literally there were parts when I was recording where I got choked up, where I could hardly finish lines. We did that first take, and he goes, that's it, that's the take we use. That's your take. Because I'll do any pitch correction to keep that, right? So, it's just something to be said about it, right? Any other questions?
Do you also, you know, when you move around or something, I assume you are using microphones that don't have big proximity effect?
This could pick up. It picks up everything,
yeah.
Right? But it's like this,
yeah.
Right? So I'm staying in this area, but like I can fluctuate a lot, especially if I'm going to get loud. I'll back off the mic because I know I need to for certain parts. I might back off, if I'm yelling or something, right? Or if I'm being really quiet and I want to capture that whole really breathy kind of sound. So I'll do some fluctuation, but I don't worry about it as much as I worry about getting out of my head and analyzing what do I care that people are watching? Let me just perform my song. How would I perform it? When we recorded, the first time we recorded, one of the engineers, and he was really smart. He goes, you know what? He goes, you're used to playing with your guitar. And your guitar is almost like a shield. You get used to it, right? I have my guitar. I don't sing a cappella. That's not what I do. So he grabbed my guitar. We muted strings. He goes, play your guitar. Just perform the song, just like you're on stage. Play it with all that energy. See your band behind you, like everything is about. He goes, don't worry about anything else. Just perform the song, right? So Yeah, so I don't worry about it nearly as much. But, I mean, to your point, knowing about where you record levels at, and making a little note of that, especially if you're going to come back to it, it's like, okay, I was about there, and I'm about here, and this is the mic I was using. It makes sense. You can make that note and keep a little journal, and then you just refer back to it. That's how I would handle that. Any other questions? Okay. I'll bring up one other thing just to... We're done here. So I was challenged to record songs more fully, and we're not going to play the whole song. I'm just going to get... So, over 2 mornings, this is like about 3 hours worth of work. I just did this song, and this is when I added a preamp and a compressor to my setup. This is just with this device, this microphone. I'm playing cajon for percussion, which I'll probably swap out at some point. Acoustic guitar, electric guitar, I have a bass line in there. I've added some other stuff that I haven't really meshed in the way I want it to be. But
I can't define just how I feel. I've been living with emotion that's so unreal. I walk these busy streets alone. My only friends are hopes and dreams I can't let go. Her presence crosses my lonely path. Perfume scent and I can't hold back. The lady, she moves me, sends a shot right through me. Now fades into the moonbeams at night. First she crept into my daydreams. Now I must admit she's all I see. And I know you know what I need tonight. Whoa, she's a lady, alright.
okay, so and that was just me. I just wanted to sit down and kind of spend more time on one song with a little more, so I wrote a bass line, and then I sent it off to my band. I go, look, this is the feel I want for this song, right? And then one thing you'll notice, this is a more full-featured setup. So I've still got my scratch drums, and I've got a scratch track, and now I have a shaker and a cajon. Then I have my guitar main, which actually you'll see is a folder. There's an indented set. I have guitar 1, guitar 2, guitar AA. All that really means is it's the original guitar sound. I didn't like those, so I muted them out. I could actually delete them. I re-recorded the guitar. I doubled it up. Here's my electric guitar. That's the second one. I didn't like how that came out. And there's my guitar track. I'm not a lead guitar player, so I just go through enough times. You'll see it's all chopped up all over the place. If you saw how many takes, I just did do 10 takes on my electric guitar. I'm bound to find some place where I did something right. That's how I view it. My bass line, whatever. And if we were to expand it out, just to give you an idea, you can see the takes I'm doing. The bass I had pretty well down, right? So I have 3 takes on that. But for the electric guitar, I can't remember where I ended up. You can see I've got 7 or 8 takes, right? And then I just cut it up and pick the sections that I like the best, right? And then you can organize. The nice part about organizing things like this is I've got my main vocals, then I've got my backing vocals down here. And so if I wanted to, and I just came right here where I have backing vocals, low and mid backing vocals. I didn't like my high backing vocals, so they're muted. I won't let you listen to them. Couldn't pay me. So I can go up here and say, how did those vocals work with my vocals? So I'm just muting everything but that. And all I had to do was do the sorry, I didn't have to do it there. All I had to do is solo the vocal main folder, which is everything's underneath it, and the backing vocal main, right? The folder that these are in.
She crept into my daydreams. Now I must admit she's all I see.
Right, so that's it. It's a way for me to go back and just pick up those parts if I want to just hear them. And then I could sit there and go, because I thought, and of course it's on these speakers, things can change. But I thought my backing vocals weren't loud enough. Just now when we were listening to them, I can go right here and just in mass raise them up a little bit.
Crept in my daydreams. Now I must admit she's all I see, and I know you know what I need tonight. Whoa, she's.
Now the nice part is I've got my daughter coming in and she's gonna do backing vocals on this song for me and help me out with it a little bit, right? So I can vary up those backing vocals or add them. So both those tracks are mine. I'll add a third track for hers. I'll probably record her 2 or 3 times because I want this kind of big chorusy feel in that underneath part, you know. Anyways, that's it. That's using Reaper. Hopefully that's helpful. And
I have one question.
yes.
At the end you say render to wave, whatever. And
Yeah.
then you say requires lame editor.
Yeah, so if you're going to render to an MP3 file, so MP3 is a particular format it requires, but the lame encoder is a free DLL you can find online. It works with Audacity, it works with Reaper, and once you use it, you can render directly to an MP3 file if you want to. If you typically want to render to a WAV file because there's no compression to it, and then create your MP3 file off of that, you know, because what you're going to put on a CD type project or whatever is really going to come from a WAV file, right? But MP3 is what people are listening to, of course, online, and there's more compression. So, but yeah, so the way you do that, just to make it a little cleaner, is this. So let's pick up the song we just did. Let's zoom out. I don't know why I'm looking up there when I've got it right here. So I know the song starts, what, here? Oops. What am I, oh, I've soloed you too. Yeah. Right, so there's where it starts. So I can do a time selection of the entire song. Get up to see where the guitar ends. Just to make it a little bit nicer, we should have the guitar and you can create kind of your fade out right there. And adjust the, okay, so that it ends with that. And so you get that nice sound of the heating unit. So now I've got this time selection, and now I just do render, and it's got a file name. It's going to put it in a folder of my choosing, so I'm going to let's see. I'll just put it I'll put it on the desktop actually. Okay, so it's going to put it on the desktop. I'm not going to do it to a WAV, I'm going to do it to a MP3. It says render by lame project. Doesn't mean you're lame, don't take it personal. Okay, and I'm going to say master mix time selection, that's correct. So from the master mix, that's everything in our mix, and use the time selection. And then I'm just going to render one file. Let's close this. And now here's our file right here.
And I could take her there. She'd like to see her love is like a rolling tide.
There we go.
My heart is like the sand, it's just being swept aside.
Just had to re-record it because I was closer. I knew I was closer when I recorded it.
Chasing man pursued as that wave returns to the sea. Praying that a full moon bring the tide back to me.
There you go. We just made a song. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew.